The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and welcome to the webinar on Emergency Assistance Fund Guidelines. My name is Jolly Jansen, and I'm a program specialist with the Tennessee Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. I'm also the coordinator for the Emergency Assistance Fund. With me today is Casey Matthews, and she's also a program specialist with the Coalition. She will assist me with fielding questions and helping with technology. All participants have been muted so that all participants will not be disturbed by background noise and conversation. There are handouts and a certificate that you can print located under handouts. I will keep the webinar open at the end of the presentation so that you can print the handouts and certificate if you choose. So I just wanted to get started today and tell you what the objectives are for the webinar. The purpose is to understand who is eligible for emergency assistance, to learn how to correctly complete the application, and what to expect once you submit the application. So the funding, emergency assistance funding, can be used for electric deposits, rental deposits, gas cards, bus tickets, and to get locks changed. What funding cannot be used for is to write checks or give cash directly to survivors, to request money orders. We do not pay for any types of medication. We don't pay for any non-emergency needs such as the internet or cable. And we don't pay for moving trucks or storage units. So who is eligible? Survivors of domestic and/or sexual violence. Those are the people that are eligible for this emergency assistance fund. This is for emergency need only. This fund is a last resource. So first you must try local funding sources. I encourage you to call resources in your area, such as churches or other nonprofit or social service agencies. So a common request are for bus tickets, and there are some guidelines. So please note that the Coalition, in order for the Coalition to purchase the bus ticket, we will be charged several additional fees due to the fact that the Coalition is not the person who will be using the ticket. One bag is permitted on the bus, and you may check up to 2 bags in the baggage compartment. The first checked bag is free, and the second bag is $15. Again, please remember that any additional fees plus the ticket cannot exceed $240, and that's the cap. When purchasing bus tickets, please do not provide the survivor's last name. Provide a password that is known to the survivor so that when the survivor picks up the ticket at the bus station, the survivor will not have to show identification. In terms of rental or electric deposits, when completing the application, please include the account number whenever that is available. It should always be standard when paying electric deposits. Sometimes rental deposits, if it's not for like a rental organization and it's a private landlord, there may not be an account number associated with the victim. But we need an account number associated with an account so that the utility or rental agency knows which account to credit the money. Otherwise, the checks will be returned and will not allow the survivor to move in or to get electrical services. And please do not submit an application until you know that the survivor has been approved for housing or utilities. And again, that's really important. We sometimes tell the survivor that everything's a go and there's a green light, but in actuality they haven't been approved. Gas cards, that's another common use of emergency assistance funds. If the individual program or agency purchases a gas card, then we can reimburse the agency for the amount of the gas card, and that is overwhelmingly our preferred method, simply because it's done more quickly. Otherwise, a program specialist will need to go purchase the ticket and mail it to the organization, and that can take several days. And gas cards are usually done if the survivor needs to leave quickly. So again, the organization is the preferred method of purchasing that. Please note that if you request a gas card, a program specialist, as I mentioned, will go purchase it and mail it, and that again may take several days, like I already mentioned. In terms of completing the application, please do not change the format of the application. All the fields are necessary as well as the questions. And the correct application can actually be found on the Coalition webpage, which I have listed is www.tncoalition.org. In terms of completing the application, that is to be done by the advocate and not the survivor. Please include the date that you're submitting the application, because we get several requests, sometimes on the same day, and it's important that we know the date. The name of the survivor, we ask that you put the first name and last initial of the survivor. And if you're requesting a rental or electric deposit, the survivor's full last name is needed if you don't have an account number. Otherwise, again, the organization may not know how to credit that account. There could be several different Marys or other common names. So it's important that we have their last name if there's not an account number. In terms of completing the application, we need the contact person's title, and this is the name of the advocate that's filling out the application. We also ask for an email address of the advocate so that we may correspond through email so that there's a written record of any action being taken. The office and telephone number and extension, again, this is so that the coalition can reach out to the advocate with follow-up questions if there are any questions, and also to tell the outcome, whether the application has been approved or denied. In terms of location and demographics, we keep that for our records. Sometimes we include it in reports and grant reports. So please highlight or circle the county in which the survivor is living. That helps us determine which emergency assistance grant to use. Please include the gender, the age, the race, and the children and ages of the children. And this is, again, mostly for personal records as opposed to whether or not an applicant, obviously, it has nothing to do with whether the applicant will be approved or denied. Again, the requested amount must not exceed $240. If the amount needed is actually more than $240, the coalition will need a detailed description of how the remainder of the balance will be paid before the application will be processed. So for instance, if the total amount is $435, then we need to know how the rest of that past the $240 will be paid. And the reason for that is actually because we want to make sure that we're not spending money for something that ultimately won't be able to be paid. We don't want to set that person up in housing if we don't know where the rest of the, let's say for instance, the first month's rent is coming from. So that's really important. Please provide a description of the situation with as much detail as possible. So fill out, again, the detailed description of the survivor's situation and what the money will be used for, the cost of what's needed, and again, we need to know what will be done if there's a remainder balance after the $240 is applied. Please describe how this funding will help the survivor feel safer, how this funding will help the survivor learn how to access benefits and community resources, and how this funding will help remove barriers to safety. In terms of the check information, we need all of this information. We need to know whom to make the check payable, how much is requested, not to exceed $240, the address to mail the check. Oftentimes, some electric companies or even landlords use a P.O. box. That is not, we need an actual mailing address, especially for private landlords, as opposed to, let's say, an electric company that uses a P.O. box to receive checks, in which case that would be fine. But we do not use P.O. boxes for individuals. On the memo line, either put the survivor's name and or account number. Again, that's super important in order to credit the proper account. If that is not given, then that check usually is returned to us, and it delays the process for somebody to move in perhaps get their electricity turned on. And again, this information is needed before the application will be processed and approved. Please ask for a safe number so that the coalition staff member can contact the survivor in 1 month to ask some questions to see how that service was provided and whether or not it removed barriers to safety, etc. In terms of expediting the process, it's usually easiest to reimburse the agency for expenses. And again, I mentioned that earlier with gas cards, but in actuality, it just in general is easier. But of course, we obviously are able to purchase it on our end. It just may not be as expedited as if the agency is purchasing it. So after the coalition receives an application, it will be reviewed for all information and we'll see if it fits the criteria. The coalition will then get a manager's approval or denial of the application, and the application is then given to the coalition's resource specialists for the check or credit card to be given. So that is what happens after we receive the application. Also, like I mentioned earlier, we like to correspond through email so that we have a written transaction and we're able to better document the processing of the application. So once the application is approved or denied, the coalition will contact the advocate, letting them know the status of the application. And if we do have a safe number to call the survivor, we will also contact them to let them know the status of the application. Please note that it can take up to 48 hours to get the check cut. And if it's on a Thursday, when you submit the application, it will be Monday at the earliest before the check is cut. Most agencies know that the coalition offices are closed on Fridays. So again, if you're submitting it late Thursday afternoon, there's a great likelihood that the application will not be reviewed until Monday and or approved. Please do not tell the survivor that they will be getting the money or financial assistance until after we let you know that it's been approved. Please don't make any promises. We cannot make any guarantees. And it's really important that we not tell the survivor that they've been approved. So that is all that I have on obtaining emergency assistance and the criteria we use. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. My phone number is 615-386-9406 or email me at jjansen@tncoalition.org. I will keep the lines open for a few minutes so that you're able to download a copy of the certificate and or the PowerPoint presentation. I thank you for your participation and I hope you found this helpful. Thank you very much.